Hi, boys and girls of grade 6. I would like to summarize the previous lesson that we had on Thursday. And I'm sorry, but most of the lesson was conducted in English because some of the concepts are quite complex. So let's look at our map in front of us. Last week, we covered Eastern Europe, Mizrach Europa, pogroms, anti-Semitism. We spoke about many Jews that left, close to 3 million, that left Poland, Russia, and went to North America, primarily the United States and Canada, including Montreal. Some, about 30,000, went to Israel and formed what became known later as the First Aliyah. In this particular lesson, we will deal with Western Europe, Germany, France, primarily, but really all of Western Europe is included in the same issue. I would like to discuss with you the state of the Jews, just as we did in the other lesson for Eastern Europe. We spoke about the situation in France, where there were 3 parts to the country: the average people, and the nobility, and the church, all rode on their back until they rebelled to what became known as the French Revolution. So, the people, 90% of the people, who owned 10% of the land, rebelled, rioted against the 10% of the people who owned 90% of the land. That became known as the French Revolution. And when everybody was given equal rights, one person, one vote, church, nobility, and average people all had one vote, there was a problem. What are we going to do with the Jews? And of course, the Jews were given equal rights, known in Hebrew as Shivyon Zechuyot, or Emancipatia, in English, emancipation. We will study more about that in class. The problem was that there were many things happening at the same time, and all of a sudden, Jews were given equal rights. The same Jew that yesterday was discriminated against, the same Jew that couldn't go to school, the same Jew that couldn't go to university, the same Jew that couldn't belong to some of the professional guilds, associations, carpenters, leather manufacturers, silversmiths, all of a sudden were equal. Some of them even became wealthy. And there was a new kind of anti-Semitism, an anti-Semitism of jealousy. And in Hebrew, the Jew was supposed to be an outsider in Hebrew letters. An outsider all of a sudden had equal rights, and in some cases was competing against his Christian neighbor. They couldn't accept that, and there was a new kind of anti-Semitism. During this time, there was an event in France known as the Dreyfus case. We already spoke about him. Dreyfus was a Jewish officer in the army, and he was blamed for transmitting secrets to the Germans, military secrets to the Germans. And we see in the pictures, when Dreyfus was declared guilty, his sword was broken in public, his ranks were removed in public, everything was taken away. Everybody thought that Dreyfus was guilty, including the Jews. About 5 years later, when Dreyfus was sent to prison, to Devil's Island, one of the worst imaginable places, all of a sudden, a philosopher by the name of Émile Zola wrote a full-page article in the newspaper J'accuse, and he accused the French Republic for framing Dreyfus. Dreyfus was freed, and during this time, a young journalist by the name of Theodor Herzl covered the trial. He didn't think that there was anti-Semitism in the trial, but he certainly was upset about the public humiliation of Dreyfus in front of the entire court and the entire world. Herzl went into his hotel room and began to write a book about the state of the Jews, Medinat HaYehudim, the Judenstaat. In that book, he basically described how he envisioned a Jewish country. And what he believed in was that just like every other people has a country, Jews deserve their own country as well. He went to talk to two wealthy Jews, Rothschild and Hirsch. He asked them for money, and they refused him, and he got mad, and he said, well, if so, I'm going to the Jewish people all over the world directly. And he brought together the representatives of all the Jewish organizations in the world in the year 1897 to what became known as the First Zionist Congress. So here Herzl begins his mission to create a Jewish state, a Jewish country, where basically he wanted it in Palestine, but he was not so certain in the beginning. We will continue with this narrative, with this story, in the next few weeks. Herzl's quest, Herzl's desire to create a Jewish country in the land of Palestine. Thank you for listening. See you in class on Thursday. Be well.